We as product marketers put a lot of emphasis on launching products and features. I mean, look at all the articles out there about this topic. There's just so many that talk about the best way to launch your product. But launch is not the final frontier, and today I'm going to share why. Before I get into that, a little bit about myself. My name is Anand. I got into product marketing after moving back and forth between marketing and product management roles. And I've had the opportunity to build and lead product marketing at some amazing organizations. And when I was brought into TeamSnap, actually, I was focused on the registration and payment solution, which had poor adoption at that time. But those were key business levers for us. So I had no choice but to really dig in there and learn more about why the adoption was so low. And during this process, it led me to realize that we over-index on launching products, enabling sales, and driving subscriptions. But this could no longer be the case because, as I mentioned, launch is not the final frontier, and subscription is not the end goal. We as product marketers need to play a more active role in adoption, if not own it. And there's 3 reasons why. 1, adoption, if looked at correctly, can truly impact how you position your product. 2, go-to-market strategies are changing, and sales are no longer the front line, your product is. And finally, product marketers, we talk a lot about value. We talk about selling value and benefits over features. But our job is not just to sell value, it's to deliver value. So let's dig into these 3 a little further here. So when I was at TeamSnap, as I said, I was focused on registration and payments. As a sports management solution, we were selling it into the amateur sports space. So think of all the different sports out there, like soccer and baseball and basketball, etc. And as I dug a little further and started looking at the information and the data about our solution, I realized there were certain sports that just were not using registration as much as others. They were actually dragging our average adoption numbers down. And so I started peeling the onion a little bit, digging a little further, and I realized these sports, they just had different needs and requirements that we at that time couldn't serve very well. And so, again, looking at that data, what it allowed me to do is get these insights, which I took back to the business and said, hey, if we really truly want to increase the adoption from our registration solution, we have to rethink how we're positioning ourselves in the market. Because yes, the market is like this big, but for us to really impact adoption of registration, we have to think about this small slice that we know that we can serve very, very well and we can get value from. And at the end of the day, like you've probably seen this, it's easy to blame the product for lack of adoption. People are not using it because we don't have feature A, B, and C. That's usually the excuse. But I think we can't sleep on the fact that sometimes we're just bringing the wrong customers in the door. So we really need to think about that, be thoughtful about that, because yes, the market is large, but there's only going to be a certain group of customers that come in and truly adopt and get value from your solution. So yes, we use positioning to help figure out how do we sell and market versus competitors, but positioning should also take into consideration adoption because that plays a key role on who we should be targeting. So my suggestion here is to focus in on 2 or 3 pillar capabilities and features, the ones that have great business or retention impact, and use data that you have to identify who's adopting these features, why are they adopting these features, and determine the characteristics of these ideal customers. Then using these insights, put it as part of your positioning. Have it play a role on defining who you are going after. Again, you are not just positioning yourselves in the market to sell versus competitors. You are positioning yourself in the market to get the right people in the door who will get long-lasting value from your solution. So again, use this information to impact your marketing and sales strategy because you want to plug that leaky faucet and make sure you're getting the right people in the door, not the wrong people. Second, without a doubt, the buying process has changed. We've seen this kind of old sales-led framework, which is still slightly there. But in that case where you have to go through a demo and talk to a salesperson, you have back and forth contract negotiations. In that kind of process, we don't even think about adoption until post-sale. It was never a thing. But that's not how it is anymore. Now buyers prefer and even expect to take your product for a spin before even talking to anyone. That's this whole product-led notion. So your product has to speak for itself. You can't lean on an informed salesperson to tell the story for it, or to have a specific talk track to compare it to a competitor. That all has to be done with your product. And to sell these evaluators, you need to get them acquainted with your product to a point where they activate adopt. Because unless they see that value, there's no reason for them to move forward and buy and continue using your solution. So with this new go-to-market strategy, adoption actually is pre-sales. It's completely flipped. And so you have to start thinking about that prior and thinking about how you get customers to adopt and see that value so they do become paying customers with you. So what I suggest here is to find ways for your product to clearly communicate its value to users, to these evaluators. Because again, you can't lean on someone from sales to do the storytelling for you. Walk customers through these key features that cause the light bulb to go off. You want them to realize the value and say, okay, we need to move forward and continue using this solution. Call out areas that you know that they're going to be evaluating. Like when someone's evaluating software, they typically have a list of 5 to 10 or 15 things that they're gonna kind of do a checklist on to make sure that the product can achieve. So make sure you're calling that out and helping them discover that you can do that for them. And finally, use the opportunity, the fact that they're in the product, to highlight where and why you are different. Because again, you are not going to be able to rely on a salesperson to tell that story for you. Sometimes and many times your product will have to do that for itself. And finally, we as product marketers, as I've said, we talk a lot about selling value, not features. But I think we need to think about it. We're not here to sell value. We're here to deliver value. And value is truly realized when someone gets into your product, they've adopted the features, and they make it their go-to way to solve a problem. But that doesn't happen unless they've adopted and they've made it part of their routine. So getting your product off the shelf, which is great, that's awesome. But we need to take it a step further and be intentional about how we get people to use and get value from your solution. Because customers that get value from your product will re-up their contract, they will add on new capabilities, and they will expand. So again, adoption is something that we as product marketers need to think about in a wider capacity, because there's huge business impact there for us, and it allows us to also expand and drive revenue for the business overall. So here, please, yes, it's great to get customers in the door, but that's not the end result that we want. Get them to adopt, create opportunities for them to discover how else you can deliver value for them, and make your product more sticky. This focus on value creation through adoption supports retention and expansion, while also creating advocates that will promote your product, which will then start this whole loop over again. So yes, launching products is great, but let's not forget about features once we get them out into the world. True success comes from making sure our customers and your customers achieve the value they expected from your solution, the value that we have been selling them on. So as product marketers, we have to think about that full journey that encompasses adoption, because adoption impacts positioning, product is your new front line, and we need to deliver value, not just sell it. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me today. If you have any questions, feel free to find me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm always available to chat. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.